I still don't think people quite understand how complex our wellness world is. It has been, whittled down to yoga pants and charcoal lemonade and all this bullshit. And I don't subscribe to that because I was
Right.
doing that 15 years ago. And I'm like, you guys, this ain't it. If you cannot internally fix your shit sober day to day, you've got to take a deep look at yourself. And I speak only from personal experience.
I think what you said is the key is when life is occurring, how are you taking the lessons? How are you integrating the lessons? Welcome to SuperLife with me, Darren O'Lean, a podcast where we explore, discover, and share solutions that promote a healthier life and a better world. Together, we'll ignite possibilities, inspire change, and build sovereignty, creating a roadmap towards a super life for you and for all. Get ready to start living your super life. Thank you for coming to the show. Welcome.
Pleasure.
This is.
Thank you for having me, Darren.
Of course. This is so great, and we had a funny scheduling moment. But I'm glad we were able to be flexible.
You were right on for saying, "Do you want to just try to come?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm always gonna take the chance."
You just game.
I mean, what would I do? Sit at home and wait? No.
Right. And this is and it worked out. I have Max Lugavere coming after.
Oh, great!
So he was able to push a little later. But anyway, thank you for coming here, and I'm stoked to have you here. And California girl, I found out, right?
Yeah, old home, old surf spot, many accidents, mostly at El Porto though.
Really?
The waves there are like unpredictable.
Banging.
Yeah.
Right. The road.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I whether I keep this in or not, but there was a moment where I was like, I don't know if I publicly can say this, but we'll figure it out. But so I was doing this new show, Mother Earth, an unofficial spinoff of Down to Earth.
Yeah.
And Selena said yes. Right? But then we couldn't figure out the scheduling. But then it was, so in that, I started kind of looking at what she was doing, and then I saw, that was kind of the first time I saw that you would doing stuff. So it was a funny.
That is weird. I saw Sue Varma was on your roster. Her and I are friends in New York. I've been on Luke Story's podcast.
Sure.
I've been on Dr. Gervais' podcast.
Oh, yeah. It's so
like all good people. And Max and I are very old friends.
Oh, amazing.
Like 15 years maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll probably intersect.
I'll probably leave and try to avoid him. Just joking.
Yeah.
No, you know how our industry is.
Yeah.
If you're a kind soul, it usually does get reiterated. But if you're a shithead, it's like, everybody knows it. And Selena is awesome.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
Don't you think it'll end up working out in the end?
I mean, maybe like next year.
Okay.
Because they when she was we were working through the contract, and then she got that Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, I saw that. That's incredible.
Right? And so that they didn't have a date locked, so then they couldn't say they could do our date this year, and so they were like, let's do next year. And we were already down the road with like countries and stuff like that. So
when are you starting the shooting?
We're finalizing another great co-host, and these things are like,
yay, Darren. Oh my God.
So hopefully.
I'm in town for pitching. It's so gnarly.
Yeah.
It's so gnarly. But you you have the in, which is like the greatest blessing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still weird, it's still a thing. Like we had Selena, and then we had another one, and then now a third one, but they're all great. And the countries now have opened their kind of cachet to what they're doing. So we're like, tomorrow we have calls with countries and tourism boards and telling what's going on there so it's exciting. But anyway, I want to ask you like one of my favorite questions because
Sure.
I really want, and I, in all the things that I do, I love to help people thrive and kind of help the world in a certain sense in my own little way.
Yeah.
What do you think is what's the keys for you? And you can say it however you want, both personally or professionally. What's the keys for you to living a super life?
Ooh, super. Like getting over here in 40 minutes from Miracle
that
Mile.
that was a miracle. You definitely sped.
There's a turbo on this VW that I have. Apparently it was designed by a sports car driver. So I was like, good thing we've got turbo on this
Right.
car.
Yeah.
I mean, into my 40s, it's been strange. Like in a strange way, it's been peaceful.
Mhm.
I have confidence brewing that I did not have in my 20s when I got started. It's become much more crowded.
Mm.
So I count my blessings for being Japanese and Polish American. I have like dumpling central under my belt, pierogies or gyoza. And I think my superpowers come from being a child of immigrants. I don't see the world necessarily through the same glasses as everybody else. I mean, they're very open.
Right.
And my mom and dad started taking me to Japan when I was 5 in 1988. The superpowers have been resilience, which is gaman in Japanese, meaning that with great resilience, bad things are going to happen and you prepare.
Right.
And you do the best you can, ganbatte, as we say in Japanese. And I've had a lot of weird full circle moments, Darren, where I want people to look at their full circle. These things I don't believe are coincidental. I was an intern at the 21st Century Fox lot off of Avenue of the Stars out near Beverly Hills when I was 21. I'm 42 now. To go back and have meetings on the lot where I used to file paperwork for The Simpsons and King of the Hill scripts on the floor of a trailer in college.
Wow.
I walked next to the trailer yesterday and I fucking tripped out. So it's almost like I'm grateful for all the bad that has come my way, because the superpower of resilience to be in this industry for decades now and still have what I think is a okay head on my shoulders and a mind to like learn and grow. Like that's spectacular and super.
Right. What do you think the keys, because you're right, like life is interesting and it throws curveballs and without a doubt it's going to happen. And what do you think the keys of building resiliency is?
Oof. Great question. There's no way when I was on Top Chef, I was 22, did not know what I was doing. I was in culinary school. So you have
You were in
this-
Top Chef while you were
Yes.
in culinary.
I think I'm the only person that happened to.
Wow. How did that happen? They're
well-
like, you don't have a lot of experience, but good luck.
But you're sure cute. And you fill this spot on our, our sector of typecasting, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, that was it was the beginning of my television career as a professional in culinary media. I would say the beauty of innocence or the beauty of being so oblivious to
Naive,
naivety or being young and just a sponge and being so curious and open. That was resilience for me on Top Chef. I believe there's only 3 of us that ever survived that gauntlet at 22. All of us were young and the world was our oyster too.
Yeah.
You take with TV, you take with it what you want. You can take the good and the bad and make something great out of it.
Right.
I have hundreds of castmates from that show that went on to do beautiful things. I think I have to choose to pay attention to the beauty of our job,
Right.
because unfortunately, there's always the yin and the yang. And being a former model who paid her way through culinary school by fit modeling and modeling here in LA and in New York, it really wasn't accepted by societal norms at the time. It was interesting. I think I internalized a lot. I think I worked out to take the pressures of life off, which I have made sure to stay regimented with, mostly for mental health and wellness.
Sure.
And I also realized very quickly that all eyes were on me, and I needed to be a realistic example of what women could be in the media world of culinary arts, wellness, or beauty. And so I have a lot of demons that I've had to face. If you asked me if I had demons maybe 10 years ago, I would say,
what?
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I've gotten to know them really well. And I have accepted just a few weeks ago that the cooking show may never happen. Told my parents down in San Diego. They said, totally fine. No big deal. And I threw it to God, and I said, I fully surrender this to you. I'm really good at having a death grip on what I want with my life to happen.
Right.
And it has never worked out the way that I thought it would. So perhaps the keys, letting go, surrender, be open to anything, and try your very best to be kind and graceful while working with integrity.
Right. There's so much there, because I can relate. It's like I can certainly understand the power versus force thing, and I find myself in that all the time, going, here I am forcing it again. Like, how did that happen? I'm like, I was trusting 5 minutes ago, and now I'm forcing, and you know what I mean? And it's a strange thing, because when I feel something, I don't know how to say this, but I feel like if I have a vision for something, I feel it deeply.
Yeah.
And I almost see it. I see it in my mind's eye, and I see myself there. I see that version of myself. And so when I see it, I'm now hooked on it.
Yeah.
And then to surrender that is hard, because it feels like it's already happened or happening. And you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't happen in this world, I'm like, yeah, but wait a minute. I can see it though. So where is it? And then I can get kind of hooked on that too. And I think the surrender to spirit and God and it's a masterful path, isn't it?
Agree. It's interesting that you say all this, because I've been trying to be more of a normal person recently. I'm not promoting any shows or any books currently. Nothing.
By the way, you're not normal
I understand.
in a great way.
My preschool teacher told my mother that.
It's like, this one.
Well, she said,
oh yeah, your preschool teacher told me, you better get Candice into sports, okay?
Yeah, she's got too much energy.
Still, yeah. I mean, that it worked real well. But I've been watching the playoffs and the finals for basketball to try to become more of a normal person. Because usually with the Today Show, I go to bed at 8 o'clock every night, because we got to be up at 4:30 for hair and makeup, prepare your lines, and know your shit. Even though you have 4 minutes, you better crush it. So there's a lot of tremendous pressure on that in New York.
Right.
So while watching basketball, it's interesting, because if the Celtics won in Dallas, they would not have the love and the honor of winning in their home stadium. So by winning or by losing one game and then winning at home was
Yeah.
probably an unforeseen gift.
Right.
And there's a guy named Horford who's in his late 30s playing, which is unbelievable. I mean, I bow down to anybody who's still playing professional sports into their late 30s. And he said, this is exactly how I saw it. It was at home court with our friends and family surrounding us. And I thought it was beautiful because the guy had also played the longest amount anybody has played in the history of the NBA without winning a ring. It's not that the ring is important or that your new show or series or our books getting to the finish line is probably just, it's almost like one step away from I hate to say this, but grief-stricken depression happening. Because sometimes after the project is done, just like winning a gold medal, you go through these series of just like, wow, like my body is ready to rest.
Yeah.
I have no other work right now. I've got to focus on promotion. And it is really difficult, I think, for people like us not to want to have full control over our entire career and the future of where it's going.
Right.
Yeah.
So where do you think you're going now?
Well, back to what we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
Darren, I think of the landscape of who's in our industry all the time because they're my friends, they're my peers, and some of them, I hate to say it, are arch nemesis or enemies. And I wish nothing but the best for everyone. I really do. In fact, most of the grievances I hold towards other or resentments, which is a lot, I've had to work through them. And so I believe that none of us could be good wellness practitioners unless we are good in here, here and here. And I don't really give a shit about the rest. Like my father often tells me, he was drafted into the military, the US Navy at 18. He went to Vietnam when he was 20. My grandfather was a POW captured by the Russians, serving in the Polish military. And my great-grandfather actually died in World War I serving for the Polish military. So we have like this lineage of cellular grief that lives through us. And I always think about him and his family and the sacrifices that they made for me to even be sitting here with you in Malibu recording a pod. You know, I can't imagine the shit these men went through so that I could be here with clean water and fresh food and like Beats headphones and Spotify, just like shit they fucking dreamed of.
Yeah.
It's self-work is for me the key right now. Whatever's in the pipes for all of us, it's nice to have it. You know, there are things coming up, but nothing is a guarantee. There's no crystal ball. But I know if I can sit at home with my boyfriend, my cat, you know, in New York and Greenpoint where we live and have peace and tranquility, then I have everything I've ever needed.
What do you think the biggest obstacle right now for you to have that?
Well, societal norms would tell me that I'm supposed to be married with children and a big old house by now.
Right. Especially as a woman.
Yeah, it's strange. My mom's friend like called me a maiden recently.
No, to your face.
To my mom. To my mom, yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful maiden.
And I had to like look it up. I was like, oh, okay, I got you.
Wow.
Like, it's interesting. I talk to people about it all the time because they do ask. I say, you know, if you want a bit of a cushion, you can freeze your eggs, take good care of yourself, you know, and find other things that you can nurture and take care of. Like I work in animal rescue frequently, and it fills my cup with so much joy.
Right.
You do see horrible things.
Right.
It is not fun all the time. In fact, a lot of times it's very painful and full of discomfort and pain, especially for the animals. But I have found that kids or no kids, I'm okay. Still don't know the answer. And I think it would probably just take more of this transformation of doing the self-work in order to feel good. Like
Mm-hmm.
no drugs, no drinking, no sex, no like Rolodex of men, all the things I've gone through in my life that used to make me happy, even if it was just for like a weekend bender, they were not infinitely strong as a stability in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas being in a relationship with somebody who's emotionally intelligent, funny, doesn't give a shit about our industry and media, these things are very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And having a good support system, I think, is the other thing that will keep you
Huge.
on the right track. Yes.
Huge. How do you think, obviously with the lineage of the Polish side, that's intense, and those things do subtly affect us. How do you think the Japanese culture and going there, how do you think that has influenced you?
So for anybody out there that is like mixed or biracial, my mother is Buddhist. She teaches at a Buddhist temple in San Diego and has for 3-4 decades. Every Friday we'd go to the Buddhist temple with my mom, and every Sunday we'd go to Catholic church with my dad, and that was normal. Their love for one another said enough for my sister and I to know that everyone can get along regardless of your belief system, your values, or what somebody else might look like or who they pray to. Like, we're all human. Who says that you are any better than the janitor or the cleaning lady or, the PA on set? Like, it's unbelievable to me. The treatment of other human to human treatment can be so
Brutal.
Yeah. I mean, how could, and then I studied a lot in Nagasaki and Hiroshima because my family in Japan was 100 miles away from Nagasaki when the bomb dropped. And there was only radio at the time. So all they knew was what I would call propaganda by the Japanese government to the Japanese people. And they didn't see the horrors of what was going on in Nagasaki, 100 miles away. That's San Diego to LA. Geographically speaking, it's very close. And my ancestors were spared by the weather that day because the US military had put down on their list several cities, and Oita is where my mother's family was in Kyushu. I encourage people to explore where they come from because sometimes the pain and suffering that we all will have and do share is caused by shit you felt or saw when you were little, or your family might have gone through something really traumatic. I don't understand why we don't look at this in wellness very often. I think people do Ancestry.com and they say, oh yeah, I've got freckles and red hair because of I'm Irish.
Or
But
23andMe. But then but then there's no, but you're right, there's no further investigation.
that is our homework, right? Like every person, we should never stop learning or growing or understanding why we are the way we are. And sometimes it is about just letting go. But I've written books on Japanese heritage and culture. I've written them on, the wellness state of the US and how Eastern philosophy can help Western times. But I still don't think people quite understand how complex our wellness world is. It has been, whittled down to yoga pants and charcoal lemonade and all this bullshit. And I don't subscribe to that because I was doing that 15 years ago. And I'm like, you guys, this ain't it.
Right.
Not even taking ayahuasca is it.
Right.
Like, if you cannot internally fix your shit sober day to day, you've got to take a deep look at yourself. And I speak only from personal experience. When I tried ayahuasca, I ended up running away and going back to my apartment because I was so freaked out by the other people around me. And I don't know what that says about me. I mean, I'll write in a sitcom one day about that.
That's pretty funny.
I climbed a wall that was 3 stories high and climbed down, and I came home with plants, socks, holes in my socks, and dirt all over my feet.
Was this in LA?
It sure was. And that was
Therein
not a
lies-
place to
Therein
do.
lies a lot of energy that. Well, that's, we could talk forever about that stuff. And you're right. Like, I think there's so much in what you said. I mean, just as a kid, I did ayahuasca 1999. Yeah. 90.
Where did you do it?
This was in the mountains of Colorado.
Amazing.
So I didn't even know what the hell it was, but I knew I hadn't even done a drug in my life.
Wow.
Right. And I knew it. I knew it so deeply in my soul.
Yeah.
And I was having a conversation with myself going, you don't do this stuff. And I showed up at such a clear intention without getting into that whole story.
Another day.
Another day.
Yeah.
Another day. And she, the molecule, the Mrs. Ayahuasca,
Yes.
still reminds me to this day, and I never have done it again. Right. So the power, the potential assistance, it's not a miracle, right? I think what you said is the key is when life is occurring.
Yeah.
How are you taking the lessons? How are you integrating the lessons? How are you using? I mean, I think we all fall into several categories of this world. We fall into, I want something or someone to take my pain away.
Oh, hell yeah. And
Right.
self-soothing
Of course.
is something that we do not share usually with other people. Like,
No.
what's your vice?
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Like I can at the end of the day, I can fucking crank on Netflix for sure. I got one dog, I got the other dog,
Oh.
like, that's, I'm just,
Self-soothing. Yeah, my dad saw my YouTube TV page the other day, and he's like, "Oh, this looks like trash. A lot
really?
of trash." Oh, well,
Wow.
I mean, I come from the Bravo universe.
Right,
Andy
right.
Cohen discovered me 20 years ago. God bless. There's
Right.
so much that we've actually done that's been great for society in ways of like culture. Like, look at the perspective of Project Runway and Top Chef.
Right.
And then there are ways that we've been self-destructive.
Right.
And you know what? Everyone is a part of this destruction.
Right.
We cannot point fingers. We cannot say it's this person, that person. It's everyone as a whole
Yeah.
contributes to the
Yeah.
good and the bad.
Yeah.
And I think when people feel that they are self-righteous and they say
That's
things
dangerous.
like, I'm gonna put a lawsuit against you because you did this and this. Do you know how many fucking lawsuits that I could potentially be a part of at this point in my career? I want nothing to do with litigious culture.
Right.
It would make me viscerally feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so if we talk about vices, how we unwind, I'm curious to know if the ayahuasca was good or bad, like for you, or had it made a big difference?
Both.
Okay. I think it was for me too. The fact that I ran away and only wanted home was so strange to
It
me.
was probably, it probably a self-preservation on an energy level, potentially.
I mean, my eyes were definitely dilated when I looked in the mirror.
I mean, I can't.
But they also trapped me in a house with other people, and that's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, it wasn't the right scenario.
To anyone, don't fucking do that and pay for it.
Yeah.
Save
And
your
you probably,
money.
listen, there's prep work to do something so.
Yeah.
And then there's proper container, obviously, of the ceremony and the people and the intentions and the facilitator. And then there's the outro, right? There's now, what are you doing? What are you integrating? How are you integrating? I mean, there's so much going on in the flippancy of like people doing this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just it borderline's dangerous.
Or the word shaman gets thrown around quite a bit nowadays. And I think a true shaman probably wouldn't even call themselves that. I'm not sure if they would use a label. But Yeah, the ancestry thing, man.
Mm,
When I studied in Nagasaki, it was the heaviest work I've ever done. It was also the most profound. I
mm,
had gone back home, and a healer told me there were lots of people saying thank you because NHK, the Japanese network I had worked for at the time doing a documentary,
mm,
said, take the entire Nagasaki episode out of your 4-part series. And I said, absolutely not.
mm.
And I kind of grieved out the idea that I would just fold my cards on, because I know you understand, especially when you're self-funding a docu,
Yeah.
that there are times where you're like, I'm fucking out.
Right.
I
Yeah.
could give a shit if I finish this.
Yeah.
My sanity is more important. But I sort of said to myself that it's important to share these stories. These
For sure.
people were, I mean, a nuclear bomb was dropped on these civilians,
Yeah.
and they still have the radiation in their body. And if they don't, they died of leukemia, cancer. They died,
The
excuse my
DNA was
language.
altered. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and the next generations also died of cancer, which is what we found with some of our one-on-one interviews.
Right.
But remember when the bomb hit, the skin melted off the body and organs were exposed. So many people had to commit suicide. Many people got eaten alive by like maggots, and they would use a train to kill themselves in the area, and they were also considered hibakusha, which was a term for somebody who was exposed to the bomb, and they were not allowed to marry anybody. They were shunned from society. They were treated different. If we don't listen to our past history and to the stories of those who have experienced the horrors of war, we will never learn, and we will continuously do this shit to other generations.
Right.
And so it is still, things like this are still happening to this day. And I think also about how lucky we are, Darren, to be sitting here podcasting of all things on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
While there are people with no food, no water, no shelter, no
Today,
home, no parents.
still.
Yeah.
That's what, travel and exposure to other things and culture, and there's nothing more powerful than seeing that. And and I applaud you for digging into that work, because it's and then it's, not to or maybe to open up the can of worms here, but you also see the world as it is today too. And so we get some information, we don't get all of the information, we don't know, we can't trust the information anymore. And there's some horrible things going on today, there are all kinds of stuff. But I go back to what you're saying. Like there's freaking 2 billion people on the planet that still don't have access to clean water, that don't have food. Like we failed as a human family, right?
Yeah.
And it infuriates me in a sense that, how is it that we have wielded power in certain areas, and then we have just utterly failed in the face of just basic needs for people, and it's you could go off on many things. People can do whatever they want with their own money, but you have the UN with its goals, and then it's like, well, figure it out. Get, quit, and then you have people trying to show up on Mars. You're like, it's so strange how sometimes it feels like everything gets flipped upside down.
Well, the priorities of many people that hold power, they're different than what I think we would love for and wish to see in this world. In our time that we know of, that we would be alive.
Yeah.
You and I both are media figures. Media figures should hold a sense of responsibility. Some are great at doing so, some are not. We're also watched under a microscope now. I think we are too involved with other people's personal lives. I think we should place priority to helping and serving.
Mm.
You know, I don't get paid for the majority of the work that I do, which is fine. I will always find a way.
Right.
If people knew what I did not get paid for, I think they might see that as a bit more honorable as well. I've just not really liked to expose a lot of my, how we do business. It's
Right.
very different than most people. I run 3S corporations, and I choose to hire only marginalized women and men in the US and have done so for many decades. But I still am also donating a majority of my time to animal rescue in New York and California. And even just that, we've also failed.
Right.
There are
Yeah.
7,000 cats and dogs roughly that are put down by euthanasia every day. And
Oh,
it's really, I wondered why we never took a sense of responsibility for those who did not spay and neuter. They let their cats and dogs run wild. And the suffering in our world is something that my own Buddhist mother has taught me.
yeah.
It will always exist. You
Yeah.
can do your part,
Right.
especially if it makes you feel really great.
Mhm.
But a lot of the work that you and I have to do is the acceptance that the pain and the suffering will always be there. And then I think then our calling card is you and I have to personally choose, just like doing the homework, if we pay attention to it and make it part of our story,
Right.
or if we turn a blind eye and just say, I want to be famous. I want an OnlyFans account. I want to show my butt. I'm going to show you, my boobs because it's easy. I could have done that 20 years ago, like easy.
Right.
But I always passed on the op to use feminine sexuality, which I hope most women will choose to keep it professional. I hope for the world to be a better place where we don't pay so much attention to stupidity and narcissism and constant need for attention. And we do pay attention to people that are making a big difference in this world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. I think, this is something that um, it is, as a guy looking at it,
Yeah.
I can't even possibly understand what the world's like as a woman. And number one, and I don't even mean this for any accolade. Women's need in society is at an all-time high, right? We need to include the perspective of women without a doubt, right? Because the yielding and the wielding of power that has caused a lot of destruction clearly is this weird egotopia masculine version for the most part, right? So that said, I I've heard women, none are in my life
Mhm.
or friends,
Mhm.
but when they say, "Hey, this is a way I gain power," and not that we need to talk about OnlyFans, but this sexualized kind of version of I'm trying to kind of have my own power back in some way.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because as a guy, I don't watch porn. I don't do it's just polluting to my brain. I've got enough other things that I want to focus on. And honestly, connecting with someone is far greater. You got to be attracted to someone, of course, but connecting to someone is far more nourishing than anything else. So you have this sexualized version
Mm.
and the loss of the beauty, the elegance, the grace, and that true power of that feminine. Like, what do we do? Like, What are your thoughts on that? What do we do with that? What do you want to say to women when they're like, "Hey, man, I make $1 million a month," or whatever the hell,
Yeah.
And as a guy, listen, I'm not sharing that part of the person I love. Like, it just doesn't feel like, "Oh, okay, I'm in a relationship with someone that's also," it doesn't fit. It doesn't. It's weird.
Well, first, I applaud you for being aware because I do a lot of research before I meet any a podcast friend,
Mm,
and we had many mutual friends to start, and also same publisher, Karen Rinaldi,
yeah.
who is a fabulous, empowering woman. But
Yes, we
but
love
Darren,
Karen.
you are a champion for women by the actions in which you have on Dr. Sue Varma,
Mm,
along with all of the other friends or colleagues of mine that you work with just by giving us a voice, which I will not name names, but there are plenty of male podcasters that are
mm,
high up that I'm positive if I was a man, they would have had me on by now.
right.
It's very sad.
Mm,
And it's okay. This is something that I want all of your listeners to know. Rejection is a part of growth. And Maya Angelou has this one quote that I always live by since I was a young teen, and it was do something so well that people just cannot take their eyes off of you.
right.
And this Maya Angelou meant for the work, the words, the wisdom, the knowledge, the support system, the community.
Mhm,
She did not mean for this to be your physical attributes.
mm,
Now, keep in mind that women are paid very well for two areas, modeling and porn. And by that, it means that we do love the sexuality and the beauty of a physical woman.
sure.
I do myself, like I love beautiful women. You will find many of my friends are actually well-known models or actresses who are known for their beauty.
Sure.
But most of them will button up. I myself at 20, 19 years old, was Aloe and Bella Canvas's first fit model ever.
Mhm,
And fit model is not to be confused with a fitness model, which is somebody who takes pictures of their muscles. It means you're a live mannequin for, I was a live mannequin for dozens of companies
mhm,
where they fit their clothes on me before they went out to production.
mhm,
Marciano, Guess, Habitual Jeans, Chip and Pepper, like American Rag, and Aloe Bella Canvas called me in one day, and I was the body that they fit all of their workout clothes on.
mm,
And now, even just a year ago, like I shot for Victoria's Secret in swimwear, no lingerie. And, if a woman was paid to shoot in lingerie, that's totally cool. It's part of our society.
mhm,
But I also did want to be aware that, my partner probably doesn't love if I go out and share all of my assets.
mm,
That's something that I had to think about. I
mhm.
also went on E News with a low cut shirt once, and he said, "Wow, it looks like you look like you're single." And I felt horrible. And I only share that because I think when you find that you connect with somebody on a deeper level, it
Mm,
is true. Like, I say this to every woman out there that's getting strung along by somebody in a relationship too. The physical attributes of a man or a woman or he, she, whomever they are that you love,
mm,
they will fade away one day.
mhm,
It's so important that we show women that one day we will all be in a rocking chair if we are lucky enough to live until we're 80 or 90, and you will not be thinking about the boobs and the butt on OnlyFans or TikTok or Instagram. You might be remembered by a speech you gave,
mm,
a book that you wrote, the humanitarian efforts that you gave when you went out, to help children in other countries. You might be a scientist. You could be, studying botany, like things. I find society has rewarded people for really bad behavior.
yeah,
Like I'm a former party girl. Everybody knows that, especially my old friends and new friends and
right.
friends all around. Um, Do I miss that shit? Sure, I miss that. I would love to go back to 20-year-old me, but I realize that my place now is different. And
Mm.
so I go through the stages of life, like taking my assignment and just saying, oh, you're right. Like I should cover up a little bit. I don't need to share everything. When Victoria's Secret or say like Aloe calls, like it's great. I can't believe that my agents still put me up for modeling gigs because they say, you know, um, you're a mixed, like Eurasian girl, and even that is a little bit weird for me
Mm.
because it's like, all right. So the bottom line is, even if the guy or girl's really hot, it's not about the physical connection. It's more about the emotional connection
Right.
than anything. And if the
Mhm.
person makes you feel really stable, like, do they feel like home?
Right. Like, how does that, someone said to me, like, how does if you can tune it, because obviously there's a lot of hormones going on there, you got to be physically attracted to somebody for sure on some level.
Yeah.
But how's your nervous system feel around it? And that is like, it's either sparking like your past, like for example, like if I had a mother that was distant and a dad that wasn't there, just and I haven't healed that. I'm just seeking that out. And so that, if I have someone that's kind of aloof, then I feel like that's what's now triggering me based on my pattern. And I think I'm falling in love. And I think that, so it's a very tricky thing.
I do know, and it pains me even to this day when I have single friends in their 40s. I'm like, fuck, I would not, as a woman,
Yeah.
I would not want to go and be in that world. I mean, as somebody who was on the apps and had a blast on an app that starts with the word R, that's why I love podcasting. It's like I can just be myself and be real. Like on the
Yeah.
Today Show, I'm probably not going to tell you about all that, but
Right.
maybe one day if they're interested.
Right.
But this is why these are good. I find I wish more individuals did press junkets and
Right.
interviews that were not correlated with a movie or a show or a book or some
Right.
shit coming out. I
Right.
wish that we talked
Just
more.
talk. Yeah.
Hell yeah, because
Yeah.
then we wouldn't feel like we needed to live up to a societal
Mm.
norm, and we would feel connected to the individuals spilling their guts about like how dating has been, how many men probably, they really wanted to be together, but they weren't ready for the commitment. And therefore, at one point or another, you have to sort of choose to walk. And knowing is a superpower that we don't really practice a whole lot. I believe Dr. Wayne Dyer talks about it quite a bit in his books, that knowing is not like saying I'm a victim. I'm an alcoholic. I'm abused. I'm traumatic over my past experiences. Knowing, as he says, is never looking back at the wake of a boat, but rather looking forward, because he was an alcoholic. He was an orphan. He was probably feeling terrible trauma from his childhood. And yet he became this incredible version of a human that was so loving and committed to giving to others. And knowing that not all of us are going to be Dr. Wayne Dyer, but we can certainly treat ourselves better, and knowing that if you put your efforts as women towards loving other women, supporting other women, encouraging other women to do. My mother used to say, you know why I tell people that it's great you do what you do? She says, because if you can do something great with your life, then why not? But yes, I would encourage people to stop rewarding the over sexualization of I'm free, I'm sharing my body with everyone. When companies are looking at hiring you or casting directors, or it's not a great look. And so to this, as much as I say be wild and free, also know your place in this world with grace, because think about your future daughter or son and what you would like for them as well to see.
That's huge. What are you the most excited about right now?
Well, as somebody who struggles with depression or anxiety, I could give you a list of wishes that I wish I could see in our lifetime. Fuck, I mean, I have not been asked this question in so long, I don't even know how to answer it anymore. Um,
Whatever's on your heart.
I feel lucky that I found a new manager who believes in me in New York named Dylan. I was missing a quarterback for a really long time on my team. Michael Jordan could score 60 points a game, but he wouldn't win championships until he shared the ball with his teammates.
Right. Got to have a good support system.
It feels like there's a resurgence. You know, the shiny and new and TikTok-y YouTube shit, it ruined me. I was so bummed that people couldn't see the essence of 7 books and, multiple shows and documentaries and 15 years of contributing on the Today Show. It was more important for me to post on Instagram and TikTok over and over and over and over to the point where it made me feel sick. And I told my former agents about it and I got no response. I'm excited for people to start paying attention to people like you, Darren, and others who bring true plus value, who are living it, who are real deal. I'm excited for the future because as horrible as the news says things are, I still believe to the core that humans are good and they want to share good things.
Yes.
And I'm excited for where the career is going with the surrender under my belt and the new team. But I've become far more simple than ever in my life. I love my cat, Shohei, named after Otani. I love my boyfriend. I love our tiny little apartment in Greenpoint. Well, not really. It's a walk up. So if we had an elevator, it'd be amazing. That I love women that support women. I've cried a lot recently watching others hit success. I will watch. I'm really weird, Darren. You probably already said that earlier. I watch award shows when people win, and I watch like the playoffs when people win, and I know it's not about awards.
Right.
But to see others in that moment where they can't even control their own emotions because somebody has seen them and heard them is a fucking gift.
Yeah.
And I feel that I'm not waiting for that. Not important. But yeah, it would be so nice to keep doing the continuous work of inner peace being the goal. And all the shiny things around you and I and in our world, for any woman especially listening, it would be great if we all could find the source of inner peace, totally and completely detached, like no attachment to anything. Sometimes it's from a workout or a surf session or a talk with my uncle the other day. It wasn't an easy talk. We had a lot of shit about family we had to speak about, but I felt really good after because I could be truthful with him. And I think my mom's words stand the most still for everyone, which is that the acceptance of like knowing that the world will not be beautiful and peaceful all the time. That knowing is the most powerful thing that you possess.
Right. There's some wise words from your mom, and we all just taking that to live by is super powerful. Well, I'm stoked that you have a team that's seeing you more and a life that's reflecting that back to you. And thank you for being so open and honest and heartfelt today. I'm super grateful for this time.
Oh, what a pleasure. And Darren, your work is really profound and special. I've watched everything from, dental floss with plastic to the indigenous people of Australia, which I
Mm,
really applaud you
mm,
and Zach and your producers and production team for
mm.
going and exploring. You are making a difference, and I would never fly across the country and drive like a maniac for 40 minutes. Don't tell anybody. Just to see anybody. I think it's important that we see one another
Yeah.
and that we continue the path together. Yeah.
Amen. I'm not stopping. I know you're not either.
I'm ready to hear what the next thing is. I am.
So grateful.
Wait, I want to know what you're excited about, though, because you didn't say.
Oh shit.
Because that was a hard question to answer, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Very
No, I mean
strange.
it invokes a lot, right? I'm excited about a lot. Like, I'm excited about this new show.
Yeah.
The show represents even the other ones. They represented everything for me is beyond the show. The show is a through line.
Yeah.
I'm developing a new platform to also scale individuality and their health journeys in a lot of different ways, both from a health perspective all the way to clean energy tech around the world. So, it's broad, it's huge, it's overwhelming, but it's wickedly exciting. So, um, I am focused on a type of utopian world, and uh, a world that can do better at getting water, power, food, shelter, health to people.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't have control over the agencies, the regulatory bodies, and the governments, but I believe what you said too. I believe in the human spirit. I believe in the common sense of an individual. I believe the heart. We always have the numbers, and so I think if you create the opportunity, people want to and will, and not everyone will as well, right? And so just allowing people to have their own path, and if they choose to have something that allows their life to be a little better, then that's great, you
Yeah.
know. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Darren.
Awesome.